How's it going, everyone? Andy here from 4K Downtime, back at you with another 4K news slash thoughts. This time we're doing it on a movie trailer, or should I say teaser, because it's more of a teaser. It's only 37 seconds, and it's for Doom Annihilation. Now, we've heard that there was actually a Doom film being in development for a while now, but this is actually our first look at it. And before I even go into the thoughts for this teaser, I just want to say Doom has actually been adapted before already, so I'm sure a lot of people know that the first one stars Dwayne Johnson and Carl Urban. And the movie was, well, most fans, let's just say they hated it and they thought it wasn't a very good adaptation. I personally thought it was generic. It was just basically a generic shooting up kind of film. And there are certain elements of that movie that I did legitimately enjoy. Like, for example, I thought Carl Urban was actually pretty good considering what he has given to work with. The Rock was okay, okay-ish, nothing really. He didn't really have much going for it, at least for me, for that film. But there were certain things I enjoyed. Like, one of the things that I did like about it was pretty much the only section that everybody who watched it did like was the FPS section. Like, it was a short 5 minutes, section of just you seeing him in first person, doing pretty much all the kind of stuff that you expect a Doom guy could do. And that scene was okay. Like I said, for me, it was actually pretty fun just to see that they've done something like this. I would have liked if it was a bit more, if the whole film consistently had sections like this rather than just this one section, but I still thought it was a pretty cool scene. And the last thing that I did like was that for the final showdown between The Rock and Carl Urban was also pretty well choreographed. The fight was alright. And of course, the ending was just kind of whatever. But ultimately, I just thought the film was okay. It wasn't the best, wasn't the worst, because in this category I've seen a lot worse. But this new film called Doom Annihilation, now that is such a fitting name. I just want to put that right now. That is such a fitting name because it pretty much has already annihilated any of my hope of it actually being good. Now, usually I tend to don't really want to jump to conclusion and just write it off as oh, this is terrible, I'm not even gonna bother anymore, at least not until when I see a proper trailer. This was just kind of like a 37 teaser that they showed quite a few clips from the actual film, and just those 37 seconds, it pretty much has, again, no pun intended, but it's really have annihilated all my hope for it. Let's just start with some of the things that are quite minor. This movie, from the looks here, I'm just talking about the looks right now, it looks cheap. That's the one word I could use to describe it. Everything in that 37 that you've seen, everything ranging from their clothings, things like weapons, and even the setting as a whole, it literally looks like a college project with a budget. That's kind of what it looks like to me. Even with things such as the kind of Mars setting that they have here, it doesn't look anything like they're on Mars. All of them, I mean, granted they show mostly just the interior section, but even the interior section, it just looks like they're in some factory. It doesn't even look like they're in a highly advanced lab or anything like that, which is what the games were like. But still, it's just it just has that very cheap feel to it. Things such as the weapons and everything like that, again, their clothings and settings, it just looked like it was cheaply made. They even the guns, they look quite plasticky. They literally doesn't look like actual guns at all. I mean, sure, you can argue all you want that it's futuristic and everything, but still, they literally look like plastic toys. Especially in certain scenes, when you see the characters we're just grabbing the guns off the shelf, they don't look like real guns at all, at least not to me. And you do get a shot of one of the demons. I don't know who they are supposed to be, because they, similar to the way how the first Doom film did it, it's quite hard to separate the imps from the Hell Knights or the Barons or whatsoever. The imps in the first film was that they were a bit more skinnier, and the Hell Knights are basically these savage brutes. And because that movie was so dark throughout most of the time, it's really hard to tell them apart. This movie seems to be kind of going back with the same thing as well. The one thing, that one creature that you did saw, I could only assume it's the imp. You would have thought that since 2016, that Doom game, awesome game, by the way. Like, considering how much they've actually, like, redone some of the creatures, especially, like, redoing it in HD, you would have thought that this film would have actually taken more liberty to copy that film, because Doom 2016 did an amazing job at, like, upgrading a lot of the way how these creatures actually look. So again, I don't understand, like, you've got your film now made in 2019, why don't you take more, like, liberty of trying to, like, bring the creatures that, like, we have recently saw in this fantastic reboot, and try to, like, bring these creatures over into live action. Because if they did that, at the very least, I would have been able to say that, well, from a design point of view, at least they're trying to stay as close as they possibly can. But that's not the case here. And then we go into things like the acting, and the acting is just, I really can't believe, like, the director would kind of approve this kind of acting. Like, again, in 37 seconds, yeah, like, you see the main, I think it's the main character, like, the way how she shouted her lines and everything, yeah, it felt so forced. Like, it's bad. Like, I don't even really, like, have any more words for it, other than the fact that it's just bad. It felt the way how she delivered it, the way how she's, like, showing, like, her emotions and that kind of stuff, it looks really bad. And maybe it's just me, but I didn't even know who the heck all of these actors are, like, who I've done. And there's not a single person that I actually know. Even the director, I have no idea who he is either. So overall, my thoughts are just, it looks and feels terrible right now. Like, I literally have no hope of it actually being a good film. Like I said at the beginning, it literally felt like they've already annihilated any hopes I have of it, this film ever being good. And also, one thing to note here is that this movie is not even, like, a movie that's going to come out, like, in theaters. This is straight to video, and I felt like that's probably maybe why it, like, the quality looks like this, because it seems like it never had any hopes of it actually being good for day one. But then again, then what was the whole point in licensing out? Like, if you were going to try again, I was really hoping this time you're really going to hit it out of the park, but that's not the case. So I just felt like this adds real nothing. Like, it doesn't diminish my excitement for Doom Eternal. I'm still very much, like, expecting that game to be absolutely amazing, and I'm pretty sure it will deliver. But it's such a shame to see, like, Doom gaining back momentum with, like, the 2016 reboot, and finally with this great sequel following up. But then you just have to have something like this from another media that's attached to it, where it's just felt like a cheap cash grab, because that's what it literally felt like to me. But of course, guys, that's just my fault. Let me know what you guys think. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. This is Andy from 4K Downtime signing off. Have a good one.